Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tracy's English Diary. I'm Tracy.
And I'm Marcus.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Whether you're listening while you're driving to work, cleaning your room, taking a walk, or simply relaxing before bed, we're really happy you're here.
Today's conversation feels a little different. It's not about grammar. It's not about vocabulary. Well, maybe you'll still learn some English, but more than that, it's about life.
We're talking about something that almost everyone thinks about at some point, especially when they're getting closer to 30. Today's question is, what's the biggest regret you have from your 20s? I think that's one of those questions that sounds simple until someone actually asks you.
Yeah, because the first thing that comes to mind is usually something big, maybe a relationship or a job, or maybe money. But the longer you think about it, the more complicated the answer becomes.
Exactly. When I was younger, I thought regrets were dramatic. I imagined people saying, I regret leaving my dream job, or I regret breaking up with the love of my life. But now, I think regrets are often much quieter than that.
They're usually hidden inside ordinary days. A phone call you kept postponing, a dream you kept delaying, a conversation you never had, or simply another year that passed while you were telling yourself, I'll do it later.
Marcus, can I ask you something?
Of course.
When you think about your 20s, what's the very first feeling that comes to your mind?
Hope, but also pressure. I remember feeling like I had to figure everything out as quickly as possible. I thought that by the time I turned 30, I'd already have my career, my savings, maybe even a family. I had this invisible checklist in my head, and every year I judged myself against it.
Did someone give you that checklist? Or did you create it yourself?
That's a good question. I don't think anyone actually handed it to me. It just appeared. Maybe from social media, maybe from watching older relatives, maybe from comparing myself to friends. I don't know, but somehow I believed life had a schedule. Graduate, get a good job, get promoted, buy a house, get married, have children. And if you were late, you were failing.
I think a lot of people still believe that.
Yeah, including me for a long time. But strangely, my biggest regret isn't that I didn't achieve those things. It's something much smaller, something I didn't even notice while it was happening.
What is it?
I believed I had plenty of time. That's it. That sounds almost silly, doesn't it?
Not at all. Tell me more.
When I was 23, I wanted to travel, but I thought, I'll go next year. When I wanted to learn another language, I said, I'm too busy right now. I'll start later. When my parents asked me to come home for dinner, sometimes I'd say, maybe next weekend. Because I honestly believed there would always be another weekend, another year, another opportunity.
And then?
Then life happened. Work became busier, friends moved away, people got married, some became parents, some left the country. Our schedules stopped matching. Without realizing it, I started seeing people less and less. Not because we argued or because we stopped caring. We were just living our own lives.
I think that's one of the saddest parts of becoming an adult. Nobody tells you that friendships don't usually end with a fight. Sometimes they just become quieter.
Exactly. One day you realize you haven't talked to someone in 8 months, not because you don't love them anymore, but because life kept moving and both of you assumed there would always be another chance.
Have you ever experienced that with a really close friend?
Yeah. Actually, there was one. We met during university. We weren't the kind of friends who did everything together, but whenever we met, it felt easy. We could talk for hours about work, relationships, our families, or just about absolutely nothing. After graduation, we promised we'd stay in touch. You know, the promise everyone makes. We'll definitely meet again. We won't lose contact. I'll text you. At first, we actually tried. Then work got busy, someone canceled, then I canceled. A few months became a year became several years. One day I was scrolling through my phone, I saw his name, and I realized I couldn't even remember the last time we had spoken. That really stayed with me. Not because we hated each other or anything bad happened, but because I kept believing there would always be another opportunity.
Did you ever contact him again?
I did. Eventually we met for coffee. It was nice, really nice, but it also felt different. Not bad, just different. We had both changed. Different jobs, different routines, different priorities. We still laughed. We still remembered old stories. But I couldn't stop thinking, what if we hadn't waited so long? Maybe nothing would have changed. Or maybe we would have remained a much bigger part of each other's lives? I'll never know.
That makes me think about something. Sometimes we imagine that relationships disappear because of one big moment, but maybe they disappear because of hundreds of tiny moments. The message we didn't send, the invitation we postponed, the phone call we forgot to make.
Exactly. And that's why I say my biggest regret wasn't making one huge mistake. It was believing that time would always be waiting for me. Because it doesn't. Time is actually very quiet. You don't notice it disappearing until one day you look around and everything is different.
That's a beautiful way to describe it. Time doesn't leave all at once. It leaves little by little, while we're busy making plans for someday.
Yeah. And if I could go back to my 22-year-old self, I don't think I'd tell him to earn more money or become more successful. I'd simply tell him, when someone you care about asks if you're free this weekend, say yes more often. Because one day, those weekends become memories. And memories are much harder to make than money.
You know, while you were talking, I kept thinking about my own 20s. And honestly, I don't think my biggest regret was making the wrong decision. I think my biggest regret was spending so many years believing I wasn't doing enough.
What do you mean?
I was always measuring my life against someone else's. Not on purpose, it just happened. I'd open my phone, and within 5 minutes, I'd already feel behind. Someone had just gotten married, someone had bought their first apartment, someone had started a business, someone had moved abroad, someone had been promoted, and then there was me, sitting in my room, wondering if I had somehow taken a wrong turn.
Did you actually believe everyone else had figured life out?
At the time, yes, I really did. It's funny now because I know social media only shows a small part of someone's life. But when you're scrolling late at night, logic doesn't always win. Emotion does. You don't think they're only sharing the good moments. You think, why isn't my life moving like theirs?
I've had that feeling too, especially when I saw people my age achieving things that I hadn't. Sometimes I'd genuinely be happy for them and still feel disappointed in myself at the same time. It's a strange emotion.
Exactly. People think jealousy means you want someone else to fail, but that's not how it felt for me. I wasn't jealous. I admired them. I was proud of them. I just couldn't understand why I felt so stuck.
Do you remember when that feeling was the strongest?
Yeah, there was a period when almost every week, someone I knew seemed to be reaching another milestone. An engagement, a wedding, a new job, a baby, a house. It felt like everyone around me was moving forward. And I was standing still. I remember lying in bed one night thinking, what am I doing wrong? Not because anyone had said anything to me. Nobody was judging me. The pressure came from inside my own head.
That's often the hardest kind of pressure, the kind we create ourselves.
Exactly. And the strange thing is, if someone else had told me the same story, I would have been kind to them. I would have said, don't worry, everyone has their own journey. But when it came to myself, I couldn't believe those words. I expected myself to have everything figured out, as if life came with an instruction manual.
I think many of us talk to ourselves in ways we'd never speak to another person.
That's so true. I was my own harshest critic. If I made one mistake, I replayed it over and over. If something didn't work out, I immediately blamed myself. Instead of saying, that wasn't the right opportunity, I'd say, I'm not good enough. Those two sentences sound similar, but they lead you to completely different places.
When did you realize that?
Not all at once. It happened slowly. One day I was talking to a friend. She said something I'll never forget. She looked at me and asked, would you ever talk to your best friend the way you talk to yourself? And I laughed, because the answer was obvious. No, never. If my friend failed, I'd encourage her. If she felt lost, I'd tell her it was okay. If she wanted to start over, I'd support her. But somehow, I believed I didn't deserve that same kindness.
That's heartbreaking because so many people listening probably do exactly the same thing.
I think so too. We forgive everyone except ourselves. We understand other people's struggles, but we judge our own.
Can I ask you something?
Of course.
If you could go back, not to change anything, but just to spend one afternoon with your 23-year-old self, what would you say?
I think I'd hug her first, before saying anything. Because she was so tired. Not physically, emotionally. She was trying so hard to become someone she thought everyone would admire that she forgot to enjoy being herself. She believed every decision had to be perfect. Every opportunity had to work out. Every year had to look impressive. And that's an exhausting way to live.
What would you tell her after that?
I'd tell her, slow down. Not because she's failing, but because she's rushing through her own life. I'd tell her, stop checking whether everyone else is ahead. You'll miss your own story. I'd tell her, success isn't arriving before everyone else. It's arriving as the person you've become along the way. And maybe I'd tell her something I still need to hear today. You don't have to prove your worth every single day. You already have it.
That's beautiful. You know, when you said you felt like everyone else was moving forward, it reminded me of standing at an airport. Have you ever watched airplanes take off one after another?
Yeah.
Imagine standing there for hours. One plane leaves, then another, then another. Eventually, you start wondering, when is mine? But every plane has a different destination, a different route, a different departure time. It would make no sense for all of them to leave together. Yet somehow, that's exactly what we expect from life. We think everyone should succeed at the same age. Find love at the same age. Build a career at the same age. As if life were following one schedule. But it isn't.
I love that comparison because when you're waiting for your own plane, it can feel like everyone else has already left without you. But maybe your journey simply starts at a different time, and that doesn't make it any less meaningful.
Exactly. Sometimes waiting isn't failure. Sometimes it's preparation, even if we don't realize it yet. You know, there's another regret I don't talk about very often. It's not about my career or money or relationships. It's about my parents. When I was in my 20s, I always assumed they'd stay the same. Every time I went home, my mom looked like my mom, my dad looked like my dad. They felt permanent, almost like part of the house itself. I never stopped to think they were getting older too.
I think we all do that when we're children. Our parents seem so strong, almost invincible.
Exactly. When I was younger, my dad could fix anything. The sink, the car, the broken chair in the kitchen. In my mind, he could solve every problem. Then one day, I noticed he was asking me to carry something heavy. It wasn't a dramatic moment. He simply smiled and said, "You're stronger than I am now." I laughed. But later that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it because for the first time, I realized time wasn't only changing me, it was changing him too.
Sometimes the biggest changes happen so slowly that we don't notice them until one sentence changes everything.
Yeah. I wish I'd spent more weekends at home, asked more questions. Just questions like, what was your dream when you were my age? Were you ever scared? What was the hardest year of your life? Those conversations, I can never get back.
That reminds me of something I noticed recently. Whenever I visit my family now, I pay attention to little things. The way my mom repeats the same story. The way everyone laughs at the same old joke. The sound of dishes in the kitchen. Years ago, I thought those moments were ordinary. Now, they feel priceless because I know they won't last forever.
It's funny, isn't it? When we're young, we're always chasing extraordinary moments. The perfect job, the perfect relationship, the perfect vacation. Then we grow older, and suddenly, the ordinary moments become the ones we miss the most.
Can I tell you something a little embarrassing?
Of course.
There were nights in my 20s when I couldn't sleep. Not because anything terrible had happened, but because I kept asking myself the same question. What if I'm wasting my life? I'd lie in bed, looking at the ceiling, thinking about everything I hadn't achieved yet. Sometimes I'd promise myself, tomorrow I'll become a completely different person. I'd wake up, feel motivated for a few hours, and then fall back into the same worries. For a long time, I thought something was wrong with me.
I don't think you were alone. I think a lot of people quietly carry that fear. They just don't talk about it.
Maybe, looking back, I wish I'd realized something sooner. You don't become a new person overnight. Your life changes through small choices. A conversation, a habit, one brave decision, one ordinary morning when you decide not to give up. That's usually how change begins. Not all at once, just little by little.
I like that, because we're always waiting for a movie moment. Some huge breakthrough, some life-changing opportunity. But most of the important changes in my life didn't feel exciting at the time. They just felt ordinary.
Exactly. Sometimes the decision that changes your life looks completely unimportant when you're making it.
Can I ask you one last question?
Sure,
Do you think if you could erase every regret from your 20s, you would?
a few years ago, I would have said yes immediately. But today, I don't think I would. Because every regret taught me something. Some lessons were painful. Some took years to understand. But they shaped the person I am now. Without those mistakes, I'd probably be a different person. And honestly, I'm starting to like the person I'm becoming.
I feel the same way. I don't miss the confusion, the anxiety, or miss constantly comparing myself to everyone else, but I am grateful for what those years taught me. They taught me patience, humility, compassion, and maybe most importantly, they taught me that life isn't something you win by reaching certain milestones. It's something you experience.
I used to believe life began after I reached my goals, after I found the right job, after I earned enough money, after I became more confident. But now I realize life was happening the whole time. It was there, in the quiet mornings, in long conversations, in unexpected friendships, in failures that taught me resilience, even in the days I thought were completely ordinary.
Maybe that's the biggest regret people have in their 20s. Not failing, not making mistakes, not choosing the wrong career. Maybe it's spending too much time believing they have to become someone else before they're allowed to enjoy their own life.
I love that. Because if you're listening today and you're still in your 20s, please don't rush. You don't need to have all the answers, or compete with everyone around you, or follow someone else's timeline. And if you're already in your 30s, 40s, or even your 50s, it's not too late to start again, to learn something new, to change direction, to become the person you've always wanted to be.
There's a quote I once heard. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. I used to think it was just another motivational quote, but now I understand it. The past will always stay where it is. The only place where change can happen is today.
So maybe instead of asking, what do I regret? We should also ask, what can I still do? Because as long as we're here, our story isn't finished. There's still another chapter waiting to be written.
And maybe it'll be the best one yet.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us. If this conversation reminded you of a memory or taught you something about yourself, we'd love to hear from you. What's one lesson your 20s taught you? Or if you're still in your 20s, what's something you're learning right now? Leave us a comment below. We really do read them.
And if today's conversation brought someone to mind, a friend you haven't talked to in a while, or a family member you've been meaning to call, maybe this is your sign. Send the message, make the phone call. Don't wait for the perfect time.
Because sometimes the moments we keep postponing become the moments we miss the most. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourself and the people you love. We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.